And the winner is... Arctic Monkeys!
That subscriber content, eh? That subscriber content, it just won't go away.
It might hibernate from time to time and sink back into the swamp. I think the cyclical nature of the universe in which it exists demands it adheres to some of its rules.
But it's always waiting there, just around the corner, ready to make its way into your ears and smash through the gated payment system, sounding better than ever.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Benefits such as getting ad-free episodes a week early with pre- and post-show chat relating to the monkeys, last Shadow Puppets episodes, bonus podcasts, watch-alongs, plus helping us improve our sound with better equipment and services.
Yeah, this podcast seems like it's fading away sometimes, but with subscribers, it will never die. Thank you very much for listening. We do truly appreciate it. Don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah, we'll invoice you for the subscription if we need to.
We're Arctic Monkeys. This is Don't Believe the Hype.
That rock and roll, eh? Ladies! That sound means it's the end of the round. Time for the bonus question. Cheers, dude.
That man just yawned.
We're gonna call it
Don't Believe the Hype.
Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 12 of Don't Believe the Hype. And yes, what's that you say? Dan is doing the intro. What's going on here? Well, unfortunately, Nick's internet and laptop are both absolutely knackered and not working together. And we tried on Friday night to record this podcast and we couldn't because of that. We'd hoped to have it sorted by the Monday, which is where I'm recording now, and he still can't get on. And because of the Christmas schedule being quite tight, we can't really afford to delay it any longer. So unfortunately, Nick can't make it today, which means that, and we don't have time to get anyone to come in and do a guest cover of the episode, because it's too late in the day. I need to get this out for subscribers in 2 days. So unfortunately, we are having to do a solo pod. I'm having to do a solo pod, so here we are. But we are here, obviously. Hopefully it will be okay. Hopefully it'll still be enjoyable. We'll still have all the usual stuff. It'll just be without Nick to bounce off and discuss things with. So there you go. That's where we are. But that's where we are. That's where we are. That's where you are. That's where you're wrong. Was that a segue? Does that count? So obviously we're here to do the last episode of the album. Can you believe it? We're here already. The last song of Suck It and See. That's where you're wrong. The last one. It's gone so fast. I was so highly anticipating doing this album that it's kind of crazy that it's come along so fast in the proceedings. It's a bit mad, really. But yeah, here we are. I'm a bit sad to see it go, but happy that we did it. I think we did it justice. I think particularly the last couple of weeks we really dug into the lyrics and hit on some strong points. So I'm glad that we have done it and that we have got here. But you know, we still got all the B-sides to do, obviously, and I'll be talking at the end of this episode a little bit about the schedule and what we're going to be doing over the Christmas break and into January. But we'll talk about that at the end. And I just wanted to give everyone a reminder about our endeavour to get Suck It and See into the Christmas charts. So from last Wednesday, I've been putting out on socials every day to remind everyone to listen to the song that day on your respective streamer. Try and get it in the charts. And obviously, if you could all buy the song as well as doing that, then maybe we can just get it back in the charts. Just get it surged in there anywhere. I don't care where it is, as long as it places. Maybe at this point now, it will have been a week since we started doing it. Maybe it will be. Maybe I will have already achieved it. I just don't know. We won't know. But we'll, if we do achieve it, we'll probably jump on and do a little celebratory, quick podcast to check that we got it in there. So, yes. But without further ado, as this is That's Where You're Wrong that we're covering, let's have a listen to that track. It's lovely. And potentially another underrated track from Suck It and See, as I feel like I keep saying most weeks. It's just got this... Yeah, I don't know. It's just got this... It's just this amazing sound, and it's perfect, but I just don't think the love for it... Maybe not with you guys. Obviously, we're the hardcore, aren't we? We're the dedicated, so I'm sure that we do. But it feels like it hasn't got much love out there, even though it is an absolute tune, as I will hope to dig into as we go. So shall we get into some information on that so that we can dig into it?
The information action ratio, ain't that the place to go?
That's Where You're Wrong is 4 minutes and 16 seconds long with just 36.2 million streams on Spotify. The third lowest on the album. So there you go. When I say it's underappreciated, it's the third most listened to track on the album. So although some may deem it an absolute tune, people aren't listening much on Spotify anyway. The song is 136 beats per minute and is in the key of E major. We got a full house on the majors, and there's Nick's not here to celebrate it with me. We got a full house. We got all the majors on it, but there is still some jeopardy, because will we get it for the B-sides and get full majors for the Suck It and See era? I think there might be a couple there that might change it. Maybe. I'm looking at you, Miles. Looking at you, the Wirral Diddler, as we like to call him. I think it could change, but we shall see. Time will tell. In the new year, we shall see. The song has been played live just 44 times by the band. Firstly on May 5th, 2011 at Circus Stockholder, Sweden. Lastly on November 4th, 2022, so the last tour, at Genounis. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I apologise to South Americans out there, but Genounis. I don't know why I'm saying it in a French accent when it's South American. There you go. I feel like I can get away with the French accent, where if I start doing South American accents and stuff, then we're going down a murky road, aren't we? So I will stick to that. So it was November 4th, 2022. It was last played at the, I'm not saying it again, arena in Rio de Janeiro, where it was played. So yeah, it did get by the band. It did get trotted out. So they must have some form of, some form of love or connection to it if they're gonna get it out on the car tour when they were doing kind of different tracks. So I mean, I think it is just such a well put together track that it's hard not to love it. I don't understand how people can have any issue with it. Maybe it's just sort of slightly forgotten. I don't know, under the umbrella of what is to come next. Maybe it's just been cast out by that. But yeah, I think the band obviously holds some affection to bring it back, because they don't bring a lot of Suck It and See songs back, much to my chagrin. They don't bring it back a lot, so to bring it back is quite a big thing for them. So it's obviously one that they do like. But there's not really much information for it out there, unfortunately, so let's move into the gear that you could get for it.
Technological advances really blooming get me in the mood.
Okay, so we have a Gibson Memphis ES335 1958 reissue for the guitar that the guys are playing, and a Fender Silverface Twin Reverb 1974 pedal with a Rivera K12 Celestion G12M65 Cremax. I don't know, the names of these pedals are insane, aren't they? And you would also want to use a grey Lightspeed to do on this. And if you use all those things, if you use the amp, the guitar, the pedals, apparently you will sound like that beautiful guitar that is in this track that we will be discussing momentarily. If you want that, get them. I'm sure there's probably other ways to achieve that sound as well, but out there, that is what the kids are saying. So, shall we get into the reviews? I feel like I'm hosting my own weird radio show, like a very specific radio show where all I do is talk about one track for an hour. You know, it feels very strange to just... This is like my version of Star Treatment, isn't it? Just a stream of consciousness, just a complete stream of consciousness. But yes, the reviews. Rolling Stones put this at number 8 in the list of the greatest 30 Arctic songs, so number 8 in the top 30, saying... That's Where You're Wrong catches you with its simplicity. The buzzing bass, shimmering guitar, the tambourine shake that grows louder as the song progresses. Turner's lyrics are evocative, but the emotions feel oblique as uncertainty undercuts love. As bright as the song feels, something looms. And as Turner astutely reminds us, something always does. You're not the only one. That time has got it in for, honey. That's where you're wrong. More on that later. So they put it at number 8 in the top 30 songs. And then The Guardian did a list of the best 20 Arctic Monkeys songs. And where did they put That's Where You're Wrong? Well, bizarrely, they also put it at number 8 in their list of the top Monkey songs. But out of 20, not 30. Arctic Monkeys are good at grand finales. Every one of their albums has a great closing track. Suck It and See is no exception. The guitars alternately clang and shimmer. The bass powers the whole thing along. The lyrics seem to switch between celebrating a new romance and mourning a lost one. So yeah, both put it at number 8. But that begs the question of where will our good friends at the Enemy Greatest list put this song? Did they put it at number 8 in their list? They did not. And as you know, they've put Suck It and See songs, particularly the melodic ones, quite high in the list. Getting quite high with Pile Driver. Love Is a Laser Quest getting to 21, I think it was, and then Suck It and See getting to 25, like pretty high. But what will be the highest? Are they the highest? They are not the highest. To answer my own question, they have put That's Where You're Wrong as the highest rated song on Suck It and See at number 11 in the list of the greatest Arctic Monkeys songs. They say, to justify it, in retrospect, That's Where You're Wrong served as the climax of Suck It and See, as well as everything Arctic Monkeys had done up to that point. Interesting take. This wondrous big-hearted tale of a blossoming love glimmers like the hazy LA sunset under which it was recorded, until the sprawling melody affixes itself to a moment, a new beginning, a full realization. I would agree with that, but that sort of brings us nicely into the music part of the show. I mean, it's such a great double riff guitar opening, like both doing that same riff. It's such an anthem. It's such a summer burst of sound. And we've just on the pre-show to the subscribers, the album of choice that we chose to pair with this song was the Stone Roses debut album, The Stone Roses, an album which I love a lot of, dislike some of. If you want to hear my take on that, then please subscribe. Go to our Patreon, Patreon Arctics podcast, or you can do it on Spotify right there. You can just subscribe on there and you'll get them as well. And Apple Podcasts if you don't want the video. I think that this song is probably the most Stone Roses sounding song of all on Suck It and See, which is why we paired it with it. That sort of the guitar riff, the bass, the drums, it just feels similar. But as I said, unpicking that, the lot of that album actually reminds me of a lot of Suck It and See in places. And again, if you want to hear more on that, then jump on the subscriber stuff. But where next week we'll be doing Caitlin Rose's 2013 album that was perhaps, and we suspect very much so, influenced by Suck It and See, called The Stand-In. We'll be doing that at the start of the next episode of Blondersonic Shimmer Trap. So yes, it is very Stone Roses. It's that little bass intro to lead the drums in. I love that as well. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on at this bit, so you have to break it down, and I will try to do so in the best way. So the guitars change to bursts of chords at this point when everyone comes in, so it's like a big sound, like they're just doing these sporadic bursts of chords that sound fantastic. The bass line here is phenomenal. What a bass! Another excellent bass line for this album from Mr. Nick O'Malley, and it sounds from a James Ford, to give him his dues, and I can't remember his name now. Was it Seeley? Chris Seeley? His mixing on there, from a production point of view, the bass sounds absolutely incredible. Again, they do a great job. But the actual riff is so melodic that it makes you feel something. That bass riff in the same way that the Stone Roses, as I mentioned, bass riffs make you feel something instinctively when you hear them. It's so good. It's such a good sound. Like it just deep in your core, you can't explain it. There's just something that you feel when you hear the bass line, and it's the same for me as I did with the Stone Roses. But the drums are like drum rolls in the intro that have the deep sound of the suck it and see drums, but then interspersed with these drum rolls like Pretty Visitors did. You remember that kind of, like we sort of said, it's like a drum it's like a drum sort of segue, it's like a drum roll in the actual verses, like it's insane. But it's like the melodic version of that, the suck it and see version of him doing that. Very different, very cool just to have these drum rolls in there. The guitars coming in for the first verse sporadically. I love how they just come in and out. As I said, they love it. Then that guitar riff that comes in, maybe one of their best. I don't know what you guys think, but maybe one of their best ever guitar riffs. It's just, it makes you feel so much. It's an anthem riff. It's a riff that summarizes the emotion of a fun, drunken, sunny afternoon. You know, if you were to play this over your memories from a festival, or a day out or somewhere in the sun, it would be that riff kind of over flashes of laughing, drinking, smoking, girls on shoulders, dancing, singing. It would be the perfect fit. I mean, if I was ever to make a montage in a film or a TV show with that kind of summery vibe, I would immediately go to the instrumental version of this song. It would just be so, or maybe with the lyrics, but the instrumental, it would just fit the vibe so good. The bass is great again here. It's just another amazing sound in the chorus, another great bass line. I mean, he really has knocked it out of the park, Nick, with this one. And we go into a second verse that is similar, but the splurges of guitar are more prevalent. And then they do something similar to the bit we loved in Suck It and See. You know, that kind of second verse where we said about the guitar that we absolutely adored in there. It does something very similar with that. And, well, not similar, but the kind of cool little thing that it does where they play a more low-key version of the actual riff, and then they use that to build it into the second chorus where it really lets loose again. clean guitar strumming is fantastic. I love the sound of that in this second chorus, the way that does. That riff again, the guitar riff is perfection, but with those kind of changes up to where it hangs, so it'll make the kind of noises and it'll do the little guitar licks, and they're just leave it. Yeah, it's a great addition. It's perfect. Mr. Helders is just completely serving the song, but throwing in these moments of change ups as well that he wants to do. It adds those drum change ups just add to that general Route 66 drive sunny day thing. They just really do. He really does the perfect, exactly what the song requires in this, as he always does. And then, though, he just gets his moment because we drop down to a fantastic breakdown. The build-up drums, I love it when drums do this kind of moody thing where they're hitting sort of low and just rumbling along. It's very Joy Division. It's very people. I love that sound. It's just this incredible sound. Yeah, really atmospheric, and it just changes the kind of complexity of the song. It's just great. It's again. The bass is perfect along with it, obviously, as well, and the little spurts of guitar that go in there. It's again very Stone Roses with that distant cymbal tap sound. There's just this sort of distant, I think it's a cymbal tap sound in the background. Could be, they mentioned a tambourine in the enemy review there, which obviously is there. And use that so well. That whole bit sounds perfect as it comes back in, and it fits the sort of the lyrics that are going at that point. This kind of self-reflective look at love and life, and perhaps even a bit existential, and kind of the sort of journey. It's very, as I'll say in the lyrics, it reminds me very much of Certain Romance in that way, in the way that kind of sounds almost. That sort of summing up youth, Certain Romance, when it kicks in, as it builds up and kicks in, it's almost like when you hear it now, it makes me nostalgic for my youth. So at the time, it felt like it was summing up your youth as you move into adulthood. This one does the same thing, but in a more sort of your life so far. I don't know, that sort of 20s vibe in your 20s. Yeah, very very cool the way that they capture they capture the essence of the lyrics in the music, or perhaps the other way around, but yeah, I love it. The two guitars coming in, doing a back and forth together, and then it all comes back into what I think is one of the finest moments they've ever done. I genuinely do think it's one of the finest moments they've ever done. All those elements that they've put throughout the song and the sound that they create together, it's just amazing. And then if it can't get any better, suddenly the guitar riff changes in the middle of it, and it's just fucking brilliant. Again, very Certain Romance, I think. That sound in Certain Romance where it changes mid solo, particularly in the live version as well. That maybe it was just actually the live version, but in the live version they changed that solo, and it sounds even better. It would be the part in Live at the Apollo where it cuts to the clips of them on the beach and things like that, and all that kind of montage. That bit there where it changes it's very much reminds me of that. I think this song is the closest they've come to another Certain Romance style end. I think it's got I think it's an outro that not only perfectly sums up the context of the lyrics, which obviously I've touched on and we'll get more into, but it sums up Suck It and See perfectly, and the band's journey so far, almost, and now without even realising it, looking back, before they entered the chaos and huge moment that AM was. It feels like it's just summing up the band's journey up until that point without them even perhaps realising it at that point, unless they knew something was, they could feel a change. But it creates an emotion. It just feels like a final moment in that same way that A Certain Romance does. The emotion of something brilliant coming to an end. I think it's as good as anything they've ever done or will ever do. Even I think it's right up there. A band just evolving constantly. Obviously NME kind of feel that way as well, putting it as the most rated Suck It and See song. Obviously I still prefer the song Suck It and See, but I could see why this one, from a musical and all the elements coming together point of view, could be perceived as a great tune. I do. I love it. I love it so much. But that's what I've got to say on the music. Obviously we will go through this much quicker when I've got no one to bounce off. But them's the breaks. This is what happens when technical difficulties arise. Shall we move into my person that I would pick to cover this song?
I'm gonna form a covers band and all.
So a bit of a funny one with this. Obviously, the obvious choice with me banging on about the Stone Roses was to say the Stone Roses, but I don't actually think I want to hear the Stone Roses doing it. I just don't think it just doesn't have that vibe. And the one that for some reason kept popping in my head when I was listening to it was a band that I only really liked the first album. They were on the Suck It and See tour, and I just kept thinking, I bet they'd do an interesting, or at least a version that sounds great of That's Where You're Wrong, and that's the Vaccines. I just think that kind of guitar sound that they had in that first album and the way that they were singing, perhaps even a bit Stone Rosy themselves with what they were trying to do there, and I just think it was, I just think they'd hit it in a cool way, an interesting way. So I'm picking them. I don't know what Nate would have said as the cover for it, but maybe we'll never know. Maybe we can ask him on social media perhaps and find out. But yeah, the Vaccines for me I think will be interesting. But Nick probably would have said the Stone Roses, but I just don't feel like I want to hear the way it's sang in Ian Brown's then voice. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a bit particular about Arctics, but...
Hey Dan, do you like listening to popular songs with questionable lyrics?
You know I bloody do. And Nick, do you like drinking copious amounts of alcohol?
Nah, do I ever? It's actually a worry.
Well, if you're the same as us, then come listen to a weekly podcast, Liquor and Lyrics, where we take apart popular music's worst songwriting whilst drinking our favourite drinks, which kind of stay in theme with the song.
From Gin and Tonic to Grease Lightning.
Cosmopolitans with Chaz and Dave.
Blue Lagoons with Busted.
Sex on the Beach with Sex on Fire.
Shirley Temples with Shaggy.
And even a shandy with Sharon.
Dropping on Tuesday the 19th of September and every Tuesday after on your favourite podcast platform.
But let's move into the lyrics part of the episode, which I think this is actually a very deep song about love and exes and life and the human condition and how time changes everything and how you change as a person and how love changes and relationships change and people you meet change. I think it's a very good way to see out Suck It and See, because it's been a song about relationships and love, obviously, an album, sorry. And I think it's a little bit it's a little bit different, I guess, than what we normally see. I do think it's a little bit more there in terms of life and things like that, you know. And perhaps as we go through it, we can identify that and you know, sort of come up with at the end what I feel it kind of like summarizes. But the opening line is a pussyfooting setting sun. So for me, it kind of sets the scene of a halfway setting sun. You know, that midpoint where the sun looks great when it's setting halfway, and it has this great color of, you know, the light it projects is beautiful, and it's that you know, that perfect moment when, if you're on holiday or something, you sat out in a rooftop bar and you're looking out at the sunset over a nice sea setting, perhaps going down over some mountains, and it's that halfway point, or even when you're on a beach and it's there, and just that color is great. But I think when he says that, he's also talking perhaps a metaphor for life, perhaps because of that setting sun, you know, or a relationship, or, you know, something ending, because he's pussyfooting. I said that wrong. Pussyfooting. So there's a trepidation in life, combined with the next lines where he says, "Make a wish that weighs a ton. There are no handles for you to hold, and no understanding where it goes." So I think about the unknown dive into love, you know, that when you enter a new relationship with someone, or different relationships that you enter, there's an unknown about it. There's something that you can't control, and you're almost taking a chance, aren't you? You know, like he says, you make a wish that it'll work, but that wish weighs a ton because of how difficult and risky diving into love can be, and how in life going into situations like that are just tricky. But you just have to just dive in there. You know, there's no handles. You don't know where it's going to go, but you just have to do it. You don't have any understanding. There's no handles to hold. There's no easy way to do it. You just have to dive into some situations and see where life takes you. And I think that's kind of, and whether you're talking about relationships or life or both, I think it works really well. I think it's a really nice way of talking about those things, and particularly even more so in the next line when he says jealousy in technicolor, which is, well, I mean, but, well, let's say the whole passage, and then jealousy in technicolor, fear by name, love by numbers. Okay, so here's an interesting, before we say the whole passage, I just wanted to get into this. So officially, like not officially, but on the internet, it's sort of fear by name, love by numbers. But I hear a than. He says fear by name, than love by numbers. And when you hear it, you can hear it. He says than. I think it's quite clear. And in the actual sleeve notes, which I know aren't always right, but the actual sleeve notes lyrically on the vinyl, I went and looked, it is down as fear by name, than love by numbers, which I think does change the context. So as a whole, the passage is jealousy in technicolor, fear by name, than love by numbers, street lamp amber, wanderlust, powder in a blunderbuss, which is just obviously just a great passage. But I think it references simply love, that passage, the good and the bad side of love, you know. Jealousy is amplified, like technicolor amplifies color. Love makes everything more vivid, including the bad things like jealousy. You know, it makes everything you feel more prominent, even if that's the good feeling of love, but also the bad things that can come, like being jealous, or, you know, things like that. You know, whether it's good or bad, it just amplifies everything, and technicolor amplified color. So it's just a great metaphor for, or a way of putting that. And then the sort of, for me, the kind of fear by name line, the love by numbers, would mean to fear love in name rather than doing it in numbers. Like if it's love in its name, fear. It's an interesting one, that, isn't it? Because fear by name, love by numbers. Is falling in love a fearful experience? But it's good to do it in numbers. It's a really interesting line that I wish I had Nick here to kind of unpack that with, because I think because of the than, it's like fear by name, than love by numbers, which would mean in name alone you would fear love, and it can be quite scary to enter into it, rather than doing it by numbers. But really, it's such a great experience that it would be much better to not fear it and do it in numbers, or having those experiences. Some people would say you shouldn't do it in numbers, you should just do it in one, but I think throughout a life, particularly in your youth, you're going to fall in love several times, and where that takes you. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting line that could have several different meanings. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts if you want to get on our Instagram or our X, which hopefully soon we can convince Nick to delete and move on to a better platform. But it's one of those. I don't know. I like to think it's fair. It's that it's a scary love in name, but really it's something that is a good thing, and you should do it in numbers, perhaps. And I think that's the way, like the street lamp and a wanderlust. I think that's why it feels like that color, like setting sun. In the opening line when he says about the setting sun, that color of a street light amber is that color that I was trying to describe when the sun's halfway setting down. It's like that amber light color, that beautiful romantic setting. That color is the perfect color for romance. And obviously wanderlust, speaks for itself. And some people say powder in a blunderbuss, it's sexual. Some people think that's a sexual line. And I know obviously we've had the shotgun skirt stuff previously, so there is form for it, and I could see why it could be a sexual line, but I'm not sure. For me personally, I actually think powder in a blunderbuss refers to the fact that while love is an explosion, a force, it can also, like the previous line about jealousy, the name jealousy and technicolor, and the bad things perhaps that love brings as well, but nothing to be scared about. The bad things that come with love are just part of it. Don't fear them. Love by numbers. I think although the blunderbuss refers to the fact that while love is an explosion, a force, it can also, like jealousy, be bad. It can do damage. It's explosive and it's amazing, but it can hurt people. And I think that's kind of the powder in the blunderbuss. It's explosive and it's amazing, but the residue, what's left behind, can sometimes be bad, which I think is pretty interesting. But it could be sexual. I get that it could be sexual, but I just think it refers to more the explosion of love, the blunderbuss stuff, but also that can sometimes be damaging and be bad as well. There are bad elements to love, but you have to embrace it all. I like to think he's what he's trying to say. You have to, the good and the bad are all make it worth it still. And then he moves on to, she looks as if she's blowing a kiss at me, and suddenly the sky is a scissor. So obviously a girl you see at a party or something. Yeah, she looks as if she's blowing a kiss at me. Sky is a scissor? Is it, the way I've always looked at this, and again, there might be other interpretations, and feel free to reach out to us, is that it's a different way, as he frequently does that thing that I always say, where he takes something that people say that's quite a normal thing, and then he turns it into a better version. He's done it frequently on this album. He did it in Pile Driver Waltz loads. So instead of that thing of when you see someone that you fall in love with, people say the sky opens up. The sky opened up when he saw them. The heavens opened. It was amazing. I kind of like to think that he's saying that in a different way. So the sky is a scissor because scissors open that way, don't they? When you open them, they open into two parts like that. Perhaps is how I see it. That it's just an Alex way of saying that the sky opened up when he saw her. It was cut open. perhaps, there might be a way that I'm missing with that. I know a lot of people misheard that as Sizzler, didn't they? I think Nick might have been one of them. I think that's what he was going to talk about, was that it's a Sizzler. So yeah, I think that might be what he's referring to there. But again, that's just an interpretation. There could be a way that I'm completely missing that isn't there, but that's the way I've always liked to think of it. So yeah, there might be some people that did think it was Sizzler, and I'm revealing to you that it's Scissor. But Sizzler, and yes, the sky is a sizzler. Some people think it said, but it's not. It's Scissor. So there you go. And then okay, I haven't had any issues with anything this album. It's my favourite album, but I do have a bit of an issue with the next line. So, sitting on the floor with a tambourine, crushing up a bundle of love. It's my one Alex lyric of any line. All the Alex lyrics that we have, even 2013, which as we know I like. I just find that a bit cringy. I do. It makes me cringe every time I hear it, like crushing up a bundle of love. I just think, oh, ugh. I don't like it. It's cheesy. It's cringy. It doesn't feel like something Alex would normally put. It feels like a lyric I'd hear in a different song by a different songwriter. Sitting on the floor, like she's sitting on the floor and crushing up a bundle of love. I don't like that at all. I don't like that one bit. It's just icky to me. What do people say? It gives me the ick. That thing young people say now, which I'd hoped I wouldn't start saying, but here I am. I've done it. It gives me that ick. It makes me go. Ugh. I just don't like it. See how it works in the context of the song, but I just don't like it. But then we get into a other passage which is, don't take it so personally, you're not the only one that time has got it in for, honey, that's where you're wrong. So I think this is about how relationships and people drift apart, and although it feels incredibly personal, it happens to everyone. That's life. That's how it works. And you're not the only one that life and time does this to. It's for everyone. It's how it happens. And I think it's an incredibly insightful, deep line about the human experience. Probably one of the only of its kind we've gotten up to at this point, really, in that sort of life, romance, relationship, existential way. It could be seen as it is incredibly personal, seeing as though we know, and I don't want to, we know he was at the end of a long relationship around now, or it wasn't long after this that relationship fell apart. Part of me has always wondered if this is him seeing a girl that he's fallen for, but he's in a relationship that's ending. I don't know. I don't really want to speculate about stuff like that, but it feels too personal. But it feels a bit like that, Is that that's where you're wrong? Is it him saying to her? This is the two kind of different things. Is it him saying to her, "You're not the only one. That's where you're wrong about that. You feel like you're the only one that's going through this, but everyone goes through it. That's where you're wrong." Or to whoever, or is it her saying back to him when he says you're not the only one that time has got it in for? Or is she saying that's where you're wrong? I tend to lean on the first. Although if it was a breakup scenario, the second one would definitely be incredibly similar to something like "Do me a favor." Do me a favor if you ask if you need some help. Do me a favor and stop flattering yourself. If you were in a breakup situation and somebody said, you're not the only person that's ever gone through this, you say, well, that's where you're wrong. To me, it feels like I have the only person that's ever gone through this. That's how much it hurts. But I don't, I'm not really going down that road. I'm just offering alternatives. I do lean to the first. I think it's him saying, you're not the only person that's going through that's gone through this. Everyone does, so that's where you're wrong with thinking that you are the only person. But I'd love to hear some other theories from you guys on what the song's about, because I think that's really interesting. And then we get all the old flames fastened on, make a wish that weighs a ton. There are no handles you can hold and understand where it goes. Obviously that's a repeat, but all the old flames fastened on. I love that way of talking about emotional baggage. All the exes, I think this is the most, just that idea of all the old, like whatever it is that you're on as you're going down this journey, where there's no handles for you to hold. If you imagine it as a visual thing of actually going down a tunnel, life as a tunnel, there's no handles you can hold. You don't understand where it goes. You just have to jump into a new relationship. But you've all got all your old flames fastened on because you take that emotional baggage with you into any situation that you go. And hopefully it can be a negative, but it can also be a positive to have learned and grown with everything that you've done as you go into a new relationship. So, yeah, I just think this is the most existential observations about life and love that he's ever gotten into at this point, and I think it's brilliant at that feeling, particularly at the time. I mean, what, it would have been like 24, 25, would they at this point, 26? I think they were like 27, 28 for AM, weren't they? So, stands to reason they'd be 25, 26. So, you know, at that point, perhaps you've had a handful of old flames, and, you know, whether they be quick romances over a couple of days or a few years, it's you learning so much at that point about love and relationships and taking it with you when you go into the next. So the good and the bad. So yeah, I just think it's a brilliant song that just sums up all of that and what we take into new relationships and how life, you know, it's like that for everyone. And yeah, I just think he absolutely nailed it, and it's a great way to see out an album because it feels like he's summing up the entire sort of album as well, with it mostly, you know, 90% being about love and relationships. It feels like a great way to dive into a new not only relationship in real life, but a new era for the band as well. So yeah, I love it. I love the way it sees it out. And now, to give me a bit of a bloody break, because it's been quite a lot of talking, let's have a listen to John Kennedy with Arctic Monkeys, obviously.
Too much to discuss over a bucket of balls.
That's Where You're Wrong is the last song on the album, and it sounds to me like House of Love. Do you know House of Love?
Oh, wow. We're around late
80s, around Stone Roses era.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, legendary
I don't
Creation
really know
Records band.
much of that.
Check them out, they're really good.
Yeah.
I think it might just be because Creation have there's been a compilation of Creation stuff, so I've been listening to it, and there's a film out, and House of Love are on there, and I was kind of thinking, it kind of sounds like House of Love. But I did think you probably never heard of it, but
Yeah, I had heard of them, but not. I don't know any records really. I'll take that out. But what's that? Sorry, That's Where You're Wrong. Is this?
Yeah, That's Where You're Wrong. Yeah. Which is, I think, in a way, this is another side of the band. I don't think you've done this sound before.
Not really. No, this would like lay the last song we did for it. I think that's something we've always struggled to do, is get like a record that. I mean, they've all got like their own identity, but I don't know. There's always like an exception or something that like is leading on to something else. Perhaps like I guess on last album it would be Cornerstone. And on the album before, I guess it was 505 or something like. And I think this is that song, and maybe on this one, like where it doesn't quite. Yeah, I mean it fits in, but it's got something else about it. I mean, I always want to do that, like get a blueprint and make this album like exactly, and it's like neat and tidy, but it's never works out being neat and tidy with yours.
But that's a good thing, you know.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it opens up avenues for development and you know, more fun. And talking of fun, did I read correctly that the lyrics on this originally involved Edge and Bono?
It were just Edge and Bono, Edge and Bono. Yeah. At first, that would like you know, like scrambled eggs. Yesterday.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Excellent. Well, we can sing that while we listen to it. Thanks so much for coming in. And great to see you again.
Nice to see you, mate. Thanks for having us.
Too much to discuss over a bucket of balls.
Okay, so yeah, very interesting. I love that Edge and Bono just in the studio before they did the lyrics. Great. I do like I love the polite way Alex ends an interview with something like, "Thanks for having us." It's very polite. What a nice boy. One thing though, he does, John Boy, sad to, obviously that's the last John Kennedy we'll have until we do AM, which won't be long. But it's sad to see the end of that. But he does mention there at the start it sounding like a House of Love tune. So I went on I've heard a couple of their songs, but I had one in mind that I think, and then I listened to one and I thought, oh yeah, okay, this is probably what he's talking about. So I thought I would play you all a little clip of it now. And that is House of Love, Christine, it's called. And I think you can hear what John means with it in relation to Suck It and See It, which is interesting because they didn't really know them. So it's funny how you can create stuff that sounds like other bands that you're not even necessarily influenced by. But the famous one being a band called White Lies that everyone thought was sounding like Joy Division, and they'd never really listened to Joy Division before. They were sort of influenced by other 80s stuff. But yeah, it does sound, I think you can hear it does sound a lot like it. I did like in that when they said it was, they always have an outlier on an album, and it got me thinking about it, and I thought, yeah, he mentions Cornerstone there, and I suppose you would say that's a bit of an outlier on that album. Favourite Worst Nightmare, perhaps you could say the outlier is Only Ones Who Know on that one. It's not sounding like any of the vibe of the others. Perhaps even 505 you might say, but I think Only Ones Who Know stands out more. And the first album, obviously Riot Van, is a completely different vibe to the rest. So they do always have that. Do they continue that? Is there one on AM, which is an outlier? I think probably Mad Sounds, isn't it? I suppose if you're gonna go down the road of one being an outlier that doesn't, because I Want to Be Yours does have that hip hop Ilya vibe that the rest of the hip hop sort of sound that the rest of the album has, so that fits. Fireside, but Fireside does have that sexy, cool LA nighttime vibe that the rest of it does as well. So yeah, I guess Mad Sounds is a little bit of an outlier there, and then Tranquility. I mean, that you could say that whole album's an outlier for some, but Tranquility, what would be an outlier on there? I suppose the Ultra Cheese is quite different to the rest, isn't it? It's more of a sort of melodic tune than the rest. Yeah, you could say Ultra Cheese is a bit of a standout from Tranquility, and the Car have one that doesn't. I suppose does Mirror Ball kind of stand out on the album as a completely different vibe, or perhaps I ain't quite where I think I am. It's kind of a funk song. I mean, that whole album is probably more a mishmash of different sounds anyway, isn't it, than any consistent vibe, which I'm sure we'll dig into. It's probably their most jumbled album in terms of different collection of songs, so which we'll delve into when we eventually get to it, which will probably be at 2020, early 2026 or something like that, I would imagine. So yeah, that's John Kennedy wrapped for this album, sadly. But shall we go into my favourite lyric?
Too busy with the mind on clever lines.
I'm gonna go with, for me, it's Don't Take It So Personally. You're not the only one that time has got it in for, honey. That's where you're wrong. I just think that's a great line. I'm not sure what Nick would have gone for. Should we guess? I think Nick would have gone for All the Old Flames Fastened On, Make a Wish That Weighs a Ton, There Are No Handles You Can Hold, No Understand Where It Goes. I think Nick would have seen something in that he would have liked. Definitely. Yeah. I won't speak for him, but I feel like that's where it would have been. So let's say my favourite musical moment.
Bad sounds in your ear that make you get up and down.
Probably gonna have to go with the guitar riff. The bass is great. I love a lot what the drums are doing, but that guitar riff is just the standout when you think of this song. It's such an amazing riff. It's so perfect. Probably deserve more love than it gets. But yeah, we're gonna do the guitar riff. Definitely, that is the one. That's where I'm right, hopefully, with that. But I do have a little. It seems weird to do a hot take, But so I guess this will not so much be a debate or a hot take as a stream of consciousness of me debating something. So that'll be interesting. So let's see what that is.
She flicks a red hot revelation off the tip of her toe.
I want to say, is this the most underappreciated last track on the album song by Arctic Monkeys so far? Maybe of all, because I think Certain Romance, obviously a lot of people's favourite songs, one of the best songs they've ever done. 505, one of their biggest tunes. So this is where it gets interesting. Jeweler's Hands, not a very highly rated song. Not by any means. Not a highly rated song. So, you know, but is it? But a lot of people wouldn't think it was up to the quality, if that's where you're wrong. And then moving past it, I Want to Be Yours is a hugely rated song. Everyone loves that. And Ultra Cheese, I think people really like that. I think most people that don't like Tranquility probably do still like the Ultra Cheese a bit. And then Perfect Sense gets a lot of love and a lot of weird conspiracy theories about it being the last song they'd ever do as well. But gets a fair amount of love as well, Perfect Sense. So I think it is between Jeweler's Hands and this. And I think I obviously said that Jeweler's Hands, I can't remember if Nick was the same, but I said that Jeweler's Hands was my favourite song on Humbug, which it is. So I obviously rate it highly. But to take myself out of it and to look at the fan base, I think most people would probably say that Jeweler's Hands is okay, but this is a better tune. And therefore, that would make it the most underappreciated because it's loved by people, but it doesn't get the love. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't. That love doesn't mean it's propelled into any kind of special place or people listen to it a lot. So, yeah, I would say this is probably the most underappreciated last song. But I personally think it's Jeweler's Hands because I think that's an absolute tune that gets nowhere near the credit it deserves. But this is probably an absolute belter as well that doesn't get much love. So, yeah, I can see it. But shall we see what AI has instructed me to say about our first B-side?
You push the button and we'll do the rest.
Driving through the shimmering sprawl of LA, the Blondosonic Shimmer Trap by Arctic Monkeys plays like a neon fever dream on wheels. It's a track soaked in glamour and grit, conjuring the image of a femme fatale who glides through the city with the chaotic grace of a comet streaking across a smoggy skyline. The song's energy mirrors the pulse of the city itself, reckless, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. The lyrics paint her as a spectral force, leaving a trail of broken wing mirrors and breathless admirers in her wake. She's the embodiment of LA's contradictions, a stinging rush of danger dressed in dazzling allure, a blend of effortless cool and untouchable mystique. You can picture her fixing her lipstick in a Cadillac's reflection under the flicker of a neon motel sign, a figure who owns the night while the city hums around her. The track feels like cruising down Sunset Boulevard at dusk, the skyline melting into golden pink, while the promise of trouble and thrill lingers just ahead. It's cinematic, indulgent, and unapologetically flashy, much like the woman at its heart. In the Blondosonic Shimmer Trap, love isn't steady or safe. It's a high-octane chase through glittering streets where glamour and danger meet head-on in the rearview mirror. Ooh, AI's done it again. So, yep, first B-side, Blondosonic Shimmer Trap. We are going to be doing a Caitlin Rose in the pre-show, so if you do want to get on board with all of our pre-show album chat, then please do become a subscriber. You also get, these extended versions. You get a lot of watch-alongs, a lot of stuff like that. You get our Last Shadow Puppets content, and you get video episodes, and you get us talking about the videos, which obviously there's quite a few for AM, so we'll be delving into that soon as well. So don't miss out, guys. Don't miss out. But I did just want to talk about our Christmas schedule before we go, because it obviously, look, this episode will have gone out to non-subscribers today on the 18th, I believe. Now, we know over the Christmas break, but you're not really going to be listening to us, are you? Because Christmas Day, the 25th, you're not going to want to listen to us talk about the Blondosonic Shimmer Trap. And New Year's Day, you're not going to be hearing us talk about the Blondosonic Shimmer Trap. So what we're going to do is, we're going to, I know we said we wouldn't take any breaks because of the fact that we took a big break and we're going to go straight into AM, but this is just a tiny little break because of the Christmas. It's not really a break, so we're going to be dropping a Christmas episode, which is a special watch-along for everyone, not just subscribers, on Christmas Day. We're going to drop that to you. a suck it and see, a pinnacle suck it and see watch along, as Nick calls it, the best suck it and see live performance in his opinion. We're dropping that for Christmas Day, and then we won't be dropping anything for non-subscribers after that until you will get the Bondasonic Shimmer Trap. So the subscribers are going to be getting it on the 8th of January, getting Bondasonic Shimmer Trap, and the rest of you will be getting it on the 15th of January, which I've just seen in my calendar is Arsenal versus Tottenham, so that's going to be more misery for me in the new year. So, yes, 15th of January, you will be getting Bondasonic Shimmer Trap. But subscribers get it a week earlier on the 8th. So if you do, again, another benefit to being a subscriber. And then from then on, from the 15th, we'll be doing all the B-sides. We're going straight into AM, and we'll be going through AM. We'll be doing the AM B-sides until we get to probably, the AM wrap-up, which will probably be, I don't even know, I can't remember how many B-sides there are in either era. So, I imagine we'll be starting AM at some point in March, maybe, and then going through into, I don't know, until sort of the end of May, and then wrap-up's probably the start of June, and then we'll be taking a break for Tranquility because we want to do some really cool stuff with Tranquility. And, so we'll be going right for it, and then we'll probably come back like a month or 2 months later with outside of the summer with Tranquility to see us out for the year, and then start the car in 2026, and then we'll be done unless the band want to release another fucking album for us. Although how we would approach a new album, I don't know, because you want to live with it for a bit, don't you? We'd probably have to do an initial review and then go away for a bit and come back with a series. Very interesting stuff, but we're not there yet. The band might not even release another album in the time before we finish it at the start of 2026, so we'd have to just go away. Just go away and then come back whenever they do something. Yeah, so that's that. So sadly, this is the last proper episode. It's kind of timed nicely, I suppose, of it being the end of the album. It's a shame that Nick isn't here, but we will be going after this, but we will be back for subscribers on the 8th of January, and the rest of you the following week later on the 15th of January with the Bondasonic Shimmer Trap, and then we'll be with you for ages, for like 6 months. So yeah, I personally would I was going to say this regardless of whether Nick was here or not. You won't know this, subscribers might know it a bit because of a break we had to take, but this has been a very sad end of the year for me. I've had some loss personally that was very difficult. And it's timed with doing Suck It and See, which is obviously my favourite album. But I would like to thank you all for listening, because getting to come on here once a week and talk about my favourite songs for a few hours has been a joy in the misery outside of it and the sadness. So I would like to thank you all for listening and giving me the opportunity to have somewhere for that to go and to forget about some difficult things for a while. So I would thank you all sincerely, and although we'll be back next week on Christmas Day with a watch along, which I imagine no one's actually going to watch on Christmas Day, but when you do, or maybe you will in the evening with a couple of drinks, you'll go at like midnight when you're drunk, you'll go, I'll put that watch along on, see what it is. But if you do, but other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and we'll be back to enjoy the B-sides, the wrap-ups, AM next year. And yes, so thank you all, and here is a clip to play you out with before the credits. Thank you.
Setting sun, make a wish there, weigh the ton. There ain't no handle that you can hold, and no understanding where it goes. waiting for honey. And that's where you're wrong. And that's where you're wrong. Oh, that's where you're
Don't Believe the Hype is hosted and produced weekly by Nick Lee and Dan Holt. Music used in the titles is royalty-free music courtesy of Les FM. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast player of choice to be notified every Wednesday when a new episode is released. And if you want to help us out further, be sure to like and review to help make us more visible to like-minded souls. We will see you next week with more of the same.